This is a Bitcoin solo miner and it's called a Bitaxe. So this is a new emerging technology and we've kind of covered it on the channel for quite a while. And it's a solo miner for Bitcoin mining, or you can technically use it for just regular Bitcoin mining. And it basically is a lottery miner that gives you the chance to hit a Bitcoin block, obviously with one ASIC chip inside. So today I'm going to be showing you kind of how it works and why it's useful to have it on the Bitcoin network and for a lot of other networks. So as you can see here from the side, there is a heatsink here, and below that is an ASIC chip, which we'll look at later on. There's an LCD display up here, and then there's a power jack there with a fan on top, and the back is just covered in some artwork and some of the components of the actual miner. So this is the 400. We currently have a 400, which I believe is a Supra, and then we have a Gamma version, which is 601. And we also have the original Bitaxe version, which I believe is the 200 number. So we have all of them and we've made videos on them before. So if you want to go check them out on the channel, I'll leave them linked in the description. But now let's get into the video and tell you why it's important to have these kind of miners on the Bitcoin network.
So as it says here on the Bitaxe homepage, as you can see here, fully open sourced Bitcoin miner. So instead of you having the regular stuff like Bitmain or Gold Shell or Ice River, this is a fully open sourced, anyone can build it. They have project files and all you need to do is get the components and get somebody to produce the PCB board on the back. If we click on what is Bitaxe, it's a Bitcoin miner based on open source design for modern mining ASICs. This is kind of the evolution of USB miners. How you had USB miners back in the day that were really good for mining just small amounts of Bitcoin, and now that's kind of evolved where the hash rate is very high, difficulty is very high on the Bitcoin network, and you still want something that can produce a relatively good amount of hash rate with some chance of hitting a block. However, those USB miners and even lucky miners and stuff like that that are relatively lower hash rate than the Bitaxe, those don't particularly find blocks as quick because they don't have as much hash rate. Then it goes on to say the open source nature allows users to inspect, modify and enhance the hardware and software to optimize performance based on the specific needs or mining environment. So you can always add to this if you really want to. Bitaxe is ideal for miners looking for greater control over their operations while contributing to the decentralization of the Bitcoin network. So hardware design, you have the PCB layouts and the materials, and then firmware is the ESP miner firmware that's run on the Bitaxe, and you can also join the community here. So they've got this all, I'll link it down in the description. But the main point of this video is to explain why the Bitaxe or USB small miners are useful to the Bitcoin network. So when we're looking at Bitcoin pools here, you can see a load of Bitcoin mining pools. You mainly have Foundry, Ant Pool, via BTC, F2 pool, and then a bunch more as you go down here. When we scroll to the bottom, we can actually see how this hash rate is divided out. So you have Foundry Digital with 35%, Ant Pool with 16.9, and then via BTC with 14. So there's not really much decentralization in terms of how many pools are actually getting the blocks on the network. If you add up Foundry and Ant Pool, then you basically have 50% of the network, which kind of does open you up to the 51% attack. I know we're not currently at that, but over time, even if you look back on this history of it all, you can see that it was way more decentralized even 2-3 years ago compared to now. And the main reason for this is basically because people want profitability and they want more reliable and more steady profitability. And the only way to incentivize that is to get more blocks on the network. So because Foundry Digital or Ant Pool get most of the blocks, that's more reliable in terms of profitability. There won't particularly be a day where they don't find blocks, but there could be for smaller pools. So there's no incentive to join a smaller pool. You might as well go with the top ones because that's going to guarantee profitability. And you also have to have a substantial amount of hash rate to solo mine on your own, and not a lot of people are going to be going out and doing that. You can even see this displayed here. So out of the last 100 blocks, Foundry got 31, Ant Pool got 16, via BTC got 13, F2 Pool got 13, and then as you go down it falls off. So some of the mining pools down here didn't even get blocks in the last 100, and as you go down you can see the last block 2 days ago, last block 4 months ago, last block 2 days, 3 days, 6 months. So you can see how as you go down there's no incentive to actually join any of these smaller pools. you would probably want to go with these top 3 or 4. So that brings in the question of how decentralized is the Bitcoin network, and the main reason behind Bitaxe and smaller miners is kind of to further allow decentralization, because it is going to over time become more centralized into these pools, and we don't necessarily want that to happen on an overall scale because it can open up for attacks on the network. So a Bitaxe is basically a small device. You have a bunch of them that you can actually buy. If we go to source and then we can go view all hardware here. So you have the Gamma, and then you have the Supra, Ultra, and then you have the Max. So I believe that this one was the first one, this one second, third, and then Gamma is the latest version. So this has a BM1370 from the S21 Pro. So currently the one that we're running right now is the Bitaxe Gamma, as you can see on public pool. It also tells you how many years it'll take to actually mine one, but let's just not focus on that because we know it's very, very high right now for just one of those miners. When you look here, you can see the hash rate of it, shares the efficiency, how much power it's drawing, so around 20 watts, and the temperatures and stuff like that. And if you want to buy one of these, I believe if you click on bitaxe.org and then click on buy, it'll take you to all the registered sellers here, and they have it in different continents and countries there if you want to actually go and buy it from the country that you're in. So a lot of people out there are making them and offering them to sell. So as I said, it's kind of open source. This whole Axe OS that we have here displayed is open source. You can also get different OSs if you really wanted to, if you wanted to design one. Same thing for the public pool right here. The main thing that we're talking about as we go back to the mining pools is we see here the only kind of top 5, top 6 pools are actually getting blocked. So you have Mara, Antpool, via BTC, Foundry, Spider, F2, Antpool, via F2, Antpool, Spider, Ant, Foundry. Overall, the top 5 or 6 pools out there are just mining all of the blocks currently. So there's not really any left for the rest of them. However, what you got to understand about Bitcoin mining and any type of mining at this point is that only one chip actually finds the solution. So it doesn't necessarily matter about how many ASICs you can produce onto the network, because one chip can find the solution. So you could have 100,000 chips sitting on a pool and one of them will find the solution. So that's kind of the main message, is that you can still find one on a Bitaxe. And there has been people over time, I think we've now hit 3 blocks on a Bitaxe over the whole time of Bitaxe being out. So around a year's time, we've hit 3 blocks. But after doing the calculations and the chips, the more chips that you get out there on the network, the more likely you are to actually find a block. So let's say that we have 1 million Bitaxes running across the world. The likelihood of finding a block is way higher from one of these machines. And once machines start relatively hitting it, every month or every week or every day, a lot of traffic is going to go through Bitaxe, which allows people to actually buy the Bitaxe firstly and decentralize the network further, because we don't want this happening as much. So if we scroll down here, we don't want this happening as much. You can also run it to your own node if you wanted to, or you can go onto things like public pool and set it up on there to solo mine. So once you get a substantial amount of Bitaxes out there, they will then start to hit blocks, whether I said every year, every month, every week, every day. And that is going to lead us to more adoption for these. And overall time, I believe that we will see a shift, if this picks up to a bigger scale, a shift over from just ASIC miners out there to more smaller miners, home miners, because there is potential for hitting a block, and it's been proven before. And the more Bitaxes that are out there, the more chance you're going to hit a block, which gives more faith in buying one of these machines. So as I said, profitability and time to hit a block is kind of, in thousands of years currently. So I wouldn't necessarily rely on it hitting a block. So right now we have our Gamma running, and then on public pool, with that hash rate, you can see it's taking us around 23,000 years to hit 1 block on the network. Now, I know that it does seem like a lot of years, but if you have 2 Bitaxes running at this gigahash, that reduces it down to, 11,000 years. And then if you have 4 on the network, that's going to reduce it down to 5,000 years, so on and so forth. If you have 8, that's going to go to 2,500 years. and I believe that there's over 30,000 of them sold, so you can kind of do the maths on that, and it should be regularly hitting a block every 6 months, depending on how much are running and how much are actually being built at the time. So with more adoption, you're going to have more decentralization on the Bitcoin network, and that's always good, because that's one of the main trilemma problems, is the decentralization of the actual network, and that can be done through nodes, but it also has to be done through mining as well. One good thing about staking is that it doesn't actually require you to have decentralization of nodes and miners. It only requires decentralization of nodes. However, this is a relatively cheap way to further decentralize the network, and I believe in the coming times, maybe within the year 2025 going into 2026, we're going to see these Bitaxe miners happen for a lot of the cryptocurrencies that you can mine out there. So proof of work cryptocurrencies like Dogecoin, Bitcoin Cash. You can actually mine a Bitcoin Cash on a Bitaxe if you want, so it works for every SHA-256. Things like Litecoin, Ethereum Classic, K-Heavy Hash, so Casper, and then as we go down, maybe Nervous, Dash, and other ones as we go down. So there's going to be all of these new Bitaxe type miners coming out. I don't necessarily think they're going to be open source. I know currently they're not really thinking about mining anything else, at least the Bitaxe team that are contributing, but all it takes is somebody to say that they want to do a Litecoin Bitaxe to bring it further and further decentralize the rest of these networks, because over time you're going to see the same thing happening. If we scroll down here, you can see via BTC and F2 Pool and Ant Pool hold all the blocks for Litecoin as well. And they're basically holding all the blocks for the top 5 cryptocurrencies that you can mine, which is even further in the centralization of overall cryptocurrency. So not just Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin. If you go Bitcoin Cash as well, and we scroll down, you can see the same thing happening here. So via BTC Unknown, I believe that is Ant Pool, if you scroll up to the top. You can even see the same thing happening for a lot of other coins. If we click on Ethereum Classic, F2 Pool seems to be the biggest one out there for mining coins at the moment. So F2 Pool holding a lot of hash rate on Ethereum Classic. If we go back, we can see what it's like for Casper coin that we cover on the channel quite a lot. Over here, you have Hum Pool, which is the top one. I believe this 59% is technically F2 Pool. I believe F2 Pool doesn't actually show here, and via BTC don't show, but they make up a large majority of the unknown hash rate right there. There's still a little bit missing as well, but you can see how a lot of these big pools at the top are basically collecting and centralizing a lot of the mineable coins out there. So as I said, you can check the link in the description if you want to go buy one of these from any verified vendor list, and let me know your thoughts in the comments if you've got one of these, if you're going to be getting one. It's not necessarily about profitability, it is kind of a lucky chance if you do hit a block, and hopefully you do. As I said, let me know your thoughts, make sure you like the video and subscribe for more content like this.